number one. Nina Kuluna SPLM. Nina Shabala Dway, Nina Mashakit, Nina Nakoti, Nashu Mashakit Shop, the shoe Riga Tabia, the shoe Riga Talim, Nasri Goletna, we're Punti, Kuala Alam, Mapitola, Jagadilla, Nina Shab Wahida, Wapana Wahida, Resuna Wahida, Asyalam number one, Nina Kuluna, Asyalam. وعنين رجعنا بزنس زي زمان ايام الحرب ايام النضال كنا بنقول كمرد عشان كده لقينا الحريه لقبة بتاع الشيطان ما يخشنا يا جماعه ما في دوله بتاع قبيله نحن شعب واحد وطننا واحد ريسنا
Powering off. Powering on.
Here's the video, ladies and gentlemen.
Paired.
I just want to have some chat about this trending aircraft and vehicular accident in South Sudan. So that's what the topic is about.
Maximum volume.
We need reconciliation. We need peace among us. One people, one nation. That unite ourselves. As well as youth league. To unite all the people of South Sudan. نبني الثقة بين البعض. ما في قبيلة ما في كراهية في جنوب السودان. ما في دولة بتاع قبيلة. نحن شعب واحد. وطننا واحد. رئيسنا واحد. أسلام نمبر 1. نحن كلنا أسلام. ما في دولة بتاع قبيلة. نحن شعب واحد. وطننا واحد. رئيسنا واحد. أسلام نمبر 1. نحن كلنا أسلام. نحن شعب بلد واحد. نحن نخلي مشاكل. نحن نقضي ونشوف مشاكل شعب. نشوف طريقة تنمية. نشوف طريقة تعليم. ولا العالم ما في دولة بتاع قبيلة. نحن شعب واحد. وطننا واحد. رئيسنا واحد. أسلام نمبر 1. نحن كلنا أسلام. وعنين رجعنا بزنس زي زمان ايام الحرب ايام النضال كنا بنقول كمرد عشان كده لقينا الحريه لقبة بتاع الشيطان ما يخشنا يا جماعه ما في دوله بتاع قبيله نحن شعب واحد وطننا واحد رئيسنا واحد أسلام نمبر 1 نحن كلنا أسلام. We need reconciliation. We need peace among us. One people, one nation. Let's unite ourselves. As well as youth league. To unite all Nisra, Kainalab, Mafika Bila, Mafika Rahia, Region over Sudan. Mafika Ula, Vitakatila, Nina Chabwa, Hida, Wapanga Wahida, Resuna Wahida, Asyalam #1, Nina Kula, Asyalam.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. This is Billy Luke. Good morning, good evening, wherever you may be around the world, depending on your time zone. This is Billy Luke, and I'm coming live briefly to share with you this particular topic about the aircraft and vehicular accident in South Sudan. This is a particular topic that I just want to come and make some few remarks and share with you my own personal insights about what ought to be done in South Sudan pertaining to the constant, this trending pattern of aircraft crash as well as vehicular accident in South Sudan. This is a major concern, and all of us need to pay attention to this. And that's why we have to use the media advocacy to actually come and share our own insights and create awareness about what should be done about this constant trending pattern of aircraft crash in South Sudan every now and then. This is actually claiming the life of our people, and at the same time, this is actually wasting your good or your commodities that you are transporting around the country. So we want to make sure there must be a public safety that need to be ensured in order to tackle this constant tragedy that continue to befall our country. So we are concerned. We should all be concerned about the public safety. And to ensure public safety, that's why something ought to be done about this constant aircraft crash as well as vehicular accident across South Sudan. So the number one thing that we need to advise as activists is to appeal to the respective authorities concerned in the management and administration of the aircraft or aviation sector in particular. We need to mandate, we need to make sure it is required by law that mandatory inspection must have to be imposed strictly in order to ensure the public safety. So this should also apply to the vehicular division, or the division of the vehicle should actually impose mandatory inspection need to be put in place in order to save lives. So this is actually what I just want to share with you. And let me go ahead and share the link in case there are some people who would want to join me in the studio and have a say about this. This is very important for public safety. So let's come and share some few words, and then I will actually close it down. So we will quite die with Liam Cake back video back here. Who back and Lloyd join studios. Để ra để cái tin and ben jam tin mit bale khi tai ra do ne cái chat pound in Sudan cái ga cái lu crash at the same time chat do ne ko chat riat cái go ga cái lo accident ko kana na ko akene ko bi jam tin buru wet ngo beloy lang bia kon te cái chi cái ne ro loy so kenen ke liam week back there when back when queen can each to better level to yini randai ku de kun ko bi jak tin ki yin ti ja go ben ku be kana bi de ko won bi lu tin so link ka ke chire ten ko ba gen join so we check a late loy ki join there and de tin bi lu video with you. So link up nyok loy and post ku bagan your join ten. So okay, could begin we can stay tuned a little bit. The quite call like you band ten. So now ping kiran call ben. The link guy to watch. Link guy to watch. Hold on. Hold on. I didn't send anything yet. No, it looked like I didn't share it. Sorry. Let me check it again. I don't know what I'm sharing here. Now I have just posted the link. Anyone who would want to come and express his or her own insight pertaining to this constant aircraft crash in South Sudan, as well as this trending pattern of vehicular accident in South Sudan, raise a major concern about the general safety of our people in South Sudan. And that's why we want to bring it to public spotlight that we should also be concerned about the life of our people in South Sudan. We should be very concerned, and we need a very strong advocacy that must push for corrective action to be taken by the ministry concerned, particularly the Ministry of Transportation in South Sudan, or to do something pertaining to the constant aircraft crash in South Sudan. Something ought to be done as well about the vehicular accident every now and then, as well as the motorcycle, which they locally refer to as Boda Boda. Boda Boda is actually finishing our people on the ground too. There is a constant report of Boda Boda accident going on in South Sudan. So that's another concern too. It also falls under the category of vehicular accident in that case. So we are wondering what exactly is the authority on the ground doing pertaining to this constant vehicular accident, as well as the trending aircraft crash in South Sudan. So in my personal opinion, ladies and gentlemen, the way I look at this and what needs to be done is that government of South Sudan or the Ministry of Transportation in South Sudan ought to do something to do with the mandatory inspection. There must be a general mandatory inspection. So that means the government must actually mandate a very strong measure that must actually safeguard the public safety. So in this case, there is a need to install an inspection station across South Sudan. In every state, in every administrative area, they have to make sure they install an inspection station whereby all the vehicles must have to go through computerized inspection. Computerized inspection means this is not going to be a human inspection. It must have to be computerized. So that means inspection station must have to be installed with a computer. So whenever every vehicle is going to be inspected, it must have to go under the computer test. That means they have to connect it with the computer. The computer will actually tell you where there is a malfunction in that particular vehicle. So this is how an inspection is done in the Western country. The same thing should apply in South Sudan. We don't want human inspection. In this case, we don't need technocratic technician or mechanic to do this kind of inspection job. So an inspection job must have to be done. It has to be computerized in order to satisfy the issuance of the license. To certify the issuance of the license, every vehicle must have to be inspected. And inspection has to be done by the computer. So when you put that vehicle in the computer will tell where there is a problem, where there is a malfunction in that particular vehicle. So that is when it has to be certified whether that particular vehicle is safe to be operated on the road or on the street of South Sudan. This will ensure that there is no mechanical problem in that particular vehicle. So unless all the vehicles in South Sudan meet the standard requirement for public safety, that particular vehicle will not be allowed to operate on the street of South Sudan. So that's why it has to be legally or lawfully necessary to recommend a mandatory, legally required inspection that must have to be done in South Sudan. The same thing will also apply to the aircraft that operate in the airspace of South Sudan. It is also required to be inspected. And the inspection of the aircraft is also required to be done through the computer. That means everything has to be run through the computer. So the computer will actually indicate where there is a malfunction in that particular aircraft. So failure to meet all these requirements will enable the government authority to deny or to give permission to that particular aircraft company or vehicular owner to operate that particular vehicle or to operate that aircraft in South Sudan. And this is how we can actually be able to ensure the public safety in South Sudan. So this is what the government ought to do. We don't want to continue to see this negligent and ignorant by the government authority when this is becoming a habitual or a continuous tragedy that continue to claim the life of our people in South Sudan. So this is critically very, very important for our government authority and the citizen as well to ensure that something ought to be done. Otherwise, we will continue to lose more lives. So what we want to make sure is to ensure that we have to create this awareness so that our government must do something about it. Our government must take corrective action now. And this is how to save life. Public safety matter. The life of our people matter. And that is why we must actually demonstrate our commitment to call on the government authority to take a corrective action to do something about this constant or trending tragedy that is claiming more lives of our people in South Sudan. This is exactly the inside of this particular program, and I would actually like to see if anyone would want to come and join me in the studio and have a say about it. So can ke with the band we away we ko ndai ke yan bi look ke jaman tin ke wede taira don te ke ga ke loñ na ke ko wi ne ko de ka ko te ke le won ko gi taira don ke chat fa ni jinu Sudan ka yo ko taira bi ke ga loy ke de ni chol biting ngo chiria ka taira go ago chi ba la loñ nya ke ga man nang to wona ye ki taira un te cha taira len chiria wala ke te ako bi ya ga ka lu check biting go be ngo chiria go te ding a tulu ke to go pe chiria ke taira chiria ule loñ e kene ako bi dia la taw ke won bi hukuma betaw barnamij chan be ke shiri kene biro dia loy to kenen ke jaman ti da nga jwak ti ne ye ke won te de ke won te de kene riat ko won te nim de chari ti chet ke da nga kaman ke cause of another tragedy when ga ka lorot pa na jinu Sudan. So we ko wona musulin ko wonde nim lon kana pa na jinu Sudan we chab ta jinu Sudan nguya ke luil mi bale ke shiri kana ku bulo yedi kenen ka ne lo ye na ko bi de to won biriat bi ke ga tawti ku buriya bi a chab go pitin ku ka ko bulo ke den chol computer bi a char na chi computer enting ka bi luil kana area riya go to kana ko bulo ako bi chok pin until bi en kon chok pin riya go wala ye ne tayara riya go ke tayara kana wala ye ne riya ne ka chi le pol bi lo chanam wala tayara kana chi le pol bi par klan nyal chana go chi bela loñ ku chi riya ye chi na mala day ku kan ku the cause of the vehicular accident in South Sudan. It's not only a malfunction a che riya go bene riya cha day you know they get any all about speeding bari ay bu gobaret bari ay bu kat already and e ken area cha de nyinam. So there is this negligence when it comes to speed limit in South Sudan. A chuk ting nu kai won ge riat ge pa na jinu Sudan ke riat ye ke go ya ye ge tawali in speed. So ken ge ria cha de nyinam ken ke ria cha na ko je ken da nga ku ting ge mi chila bai wa ya riat ke nim de ke mi chila dang de won area e yen dom je loyo balot ria e jo cho na bi chen de tina kan abalot dang ria da to e bela wan to ni ke ye guya ria e ken to ken ye ku le we ko won te musulin man taw te no ko law enforcement ko won ge ganun kare ko briat bi ke ga che gor ya chi bi ya cho na ret ko cho ne ria cho ken en ke ria cha la nam de ya ria ye tie kare un je speed ben yo ko jwati ke mi chila di da goksen ke jwage to kenen ge na ko won ko pa na jinu Sudan kana tol ko de ke bi de loyti ci man jan go tawne media kan ke media de ke ruwing lakini la bi jinu Sudan la ben da tin wala ben jam ke den jemen tin adan ya wi bale we in particular ko we ko ruwing ka yo ko ju we ade ke tajir
They have a commercial aircraft business. Ke lu operate pan the Juba. Why ye ke a message le way in particular ke way ta jerin ke pan ruin. There no way okay the nim tairat ke. Anya I remember the three of you ke nim tairat. When a cargo plane kujela passenger plane. So we okay ke kor ke personal appeal ke yen guy bilu. Tu bele we achana go business dun go ngi lu dige ya ku chaka bi yo lot ke ka ko ba tairat kun ba ke ga ka chetin ke go ke ga char go be ngo chiria te dang ne ke woni ria taira ko ate chegan ba taira jidit kaman there is a possibility de ke lu ria ke go je ga mana ojin ke brand new ka de ke woni ria you know ke choria wala ke chol taira woni chat achin man a human being. It's like a human being. You can feel sick anytime. When I feel sick anytime, you would want to see the doctor. You see? You can feel sick anytime. So that is still require you here and the owner of the aircraft, the owner of the vehicle, Briandu Ble to win be a lower laju. Below a laju di, come and be in the same go for computer. The computer la me go to know until Michela. Ago ningle nyal in Tyra ke chibela loy ke na geri andu ko loy kwe ke chibe go ko wala bi koy walway ku ne ko ikene ako musuliedu. This need the personal responsibility of the respective owners of the aircraft and the vehicle to ensure that public safety matter. And at the same time, you should also be required by the law to insure your vehicle. So if you cannot insure your vehicle, you will be subjected to criminal prosecution if you fail to do so. So the same thing will also apply to the aircraft. They should also be required by the law of South Sudan to make sure they insure the aircraft so that they can actually operate effectively and efficiently in the airspace of South Sudan. Failure to comply with all these requirements, mandatory inspection, which must be done through computer. So computerizing the inspection of the vehicle and the aircraft is actually important to ensure the public safety. And at the same time, it should also be mandated by the government to recommend and mandate all the aircraft and vehicular owners to ensure the vehicle and to ensure the aircraft. So this will enable the public safety to be covered by the insurance company. So this is very important. And this is what ought to be done by the government. We need to account for all this tragedy going on in South Sudan. So my advice or my advisory advocacy in this particular program is to appeal to the government or to the authorities concerned to ensure that there must be a mandatory computerized inspection of each and every single aircraft as well as vehicle in South Sudan. So prior to issuing license, offerable license for those aircraft and the vehicle, there must be a computerized inspection of each and every aircraft and vehicle to ensure public safety. This is very important. All right? This is very, very, very important. And this is how to save the life of our people that continue to die, not knowing exactly what is going on and how this should be stopped. So our advisory advocacy is actually meant to appeal to the government authority and to also raise awareness to our general public so that they can actually protest against this aircraft company that are so negligent and ignorant of public safety in South Sudan. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is exactly what I want to share with you, and I believe all of you should be able to sympathize and do something about it. So let us not just watch and sit back and then expecting to happen miraculously. This is not going to happen like that. We must take a corrective action. And that corrective action is to actually call upon the authorities concerned in South Sudan to ensure that they must have to mandate computerized inspection. We don't actually need a human inspection, because if you do human inspection, it is not going to be accurate result. So let us use a computer in each and every state. This is actually going to help. So kanen ke with the bench here away, kuwa chakale kuye na yo kono video ba deal tiyo. So kanen ke with the bench here away, kuwa chakale kuye na yo. Bandeng tiyo in kalor. Loidi?
Ay kalor.
Salam alaikum. In kalor. Ay yen Kijaman ke kere tayra dun te ga ke nakal ko pani jinu Sudan ku jelara ba dun te ke koy boy ke koy den nyim chani ku jela boda woni motorcycle dun te ga ke lo accident ne kana ton ko ngrang den til kene na ya ti ku la kana belo yi ke jaman ti so la toy wado ko taw ki jele kene na ya ti ku la kana belo yi ke jaman so la toy wado ko taw ki
guy, I'm greeting you all guys and you all those people watching there. I interest here. What Bill Luke is saying here about the accident is happened all over in South Sudan. But it's not only South Sudan, all around the world.
Banding bangerang deng tiel ke ko to. Dete le bin kedua le bin lo.
I don't have anything. I don't have any. Dete le bin kedua le bin lo. I don't have any. I'll put it off.
Yeah, garang deng tila yok telephone kero ato on. Lo telephone to kuwa
I can tell. Because that computer is down.
Okay. Kala ki jola twing jam. An bro lo mute. Jam tong yin ka wali lwel ke yetin ke woni.
I have to make
all about the yata in day ila ka tayra te tong
I have to make all together. I want to make it all together because South Sudan is a multicultural. So I will make all. I want to make it all together because South Sudan is a multicultural. So I will make all. I want to make it all. So maybe your side is not my side because I don't have anything. Even TV I put it off. So maybe your side is not my side because I don't have anything. Even TV I put it off. So maybe your side is not my side because I don't have anything. Even TV I put it off. So maybe your side is not my side.
I garang deng til lo twing jam. Log out on the film. So go ahead and talk. Jam.
Okay. So look at it. Bill look. Air crashes and air crash. That you talking all day. I write the message there. That you talking all day. I write the message there. I'm not a part to talk about what is happening in Australia, in America and Canada. And welcome to natural even Tayara alone. I can learn South Sudan. In which I can give to the Chicken South Sudan. I know you are concerned because can I hear you yep we are not your mechanic queen your mechanic you engineering one engineering can I hear you yep we are not your mechanic queen your mechanic you engineering one engineering so what would be 10 so
ai garang de til cha ti twal
yes you ko balwe
a nyok twal je le di
yes abanyoke kala ya
kede garang ne jam da gam cho yitem ko ba du
kwalo Canada kwalo Australia kwalo UK
aya lo le ko to ke to win ba tem ba ro
I can go with my side I think to and telephone
a wi ba te mai cha ne ti lo e run ba du to ke luel
okay I'm back kede tem
I lo out
okay
yeah I think it is clear now, ladies and gentlemen. I think you can clear me. Is there any noise? Let me see the sum up, or send me a comment down there. Let me know if the noise is no longer there. Then I will have to continue. There was too much echo, and there's no way we can continue to talk like that when it is too noisy. So welcome back, Garang Deng Sil. But you know to any in Ubaben. Who gavetting Nabung or Colorado? The Ben or Colorado, the Yen is Dajun Loretta Bating. Ladies and gentlemen, we apologize for the inconvenience. So bear with us and let's see whether this noise is still going to interrupt us. And then I will come and answer his question. He posed a question to me about what do I think about this accident that actually take place. What he's trying to say is that aircraft or vehicular accident is happening almost everywhere, but that's not the issue. We want to focus here on South Sudan in particular, because what is happening in South Sudan is it is an absolute ignorant and negligent by the authorities in charge of public transportation. So we have to do something about this, because this is not normal. This is not normal. When something happens every now and then, something must be wrong. And what we have identified so far, what is causing vehicular accident in South Sudan is a result of negligence by the authorities in charge of this public responsibility. So it is the responsibility of the law enforcement. And what I mean by law enforcement is police. The police force must have to make sure they enforce the rule of law by making sure that each and every driver or each and every vehicle must have to adhere to the speed limit. Overspeeding in South Sudan is a major factor that is actually contributing to constant accident. Overloading of the vehicle is another factor that is actually causing accident in South Sudan. And that is why I say it is a negligence of the authority who are not enforcing the rule of law. Because if the policeman was actually very serious in enforcing the law, I think there will be no overspeeding on the road of South Sudan. There will be no overloading of a vehicle. These are the two major factors that contribute to constant vehicular accident in South Sudan. In addition to that, I can also say intoxication is another problem. That means substance abuse by the drivers. When a driver overdrunk, drunken drivers are also another cause of the tragedy that is going on in South Sudan. If you allow the drivers to drink and drive, that is one of the factors that could be also be contributing to the car accident or vehicular accident. Another mechanical malfunction of your vehicle could also contribute to constant accident. So all these require the rule of law to be enforced. So the enforcement of the rule of law is what matters. And this is how we can actually mitigate and prevent the escalation of this vehicular accident in South Sudan. So this is how I look at it. That is on the side of the vehicle. On the side of the aircraft, I believe it is something that we can attribute to outdated aircraft. South Sudan entrepreneurs or business people or the owners of this aircraft are actually buying outdated aircraft from the civilized world or from the developed world. They are actually buying these old aircraft to come and operate them in South Sudan. This is very, very unfortunate. And the reason is because they buy or they purchase this aircraft with a very cheap price. And so they find it a lucrative business in South Sudan to sell all outdated aircraft in South Sudan. And our aircraft owners in South Sudan, they do not care about the public safety. So they just come and operate this aircraft without allowing them by the rule of law to go through the mandatory inspection. So mechanical inspection of all these aircraft must have to be ensured in order to safeguard the public safety. So this is very important. Yes, these business people in South Sudan, they have a right to go and and bring all these aircraft and buy this vehicle from different countries. But once they are in South Sudan, they must be required by the law to undergo the inspection. So that's why the lawmakers, the parliamentarians of South Sudan, must do something about this constant violation of the airspace or violation of the road users in South Sudan, because this is actually killing people. It is becoming one of the major threats to the life of the people of South Sudan. So this is how I look at it. Ladies and gentlemen, this is not a joking matter. It is something that required a serious attention and required corrective action to be taken now and not later. So, kenen ke jaman tinga. Tara de kala o ke tara le wonte ke yudu daman World War II, daman World War I, ke ja be junu Sudan kala ko toke ko uja ke bai fa ne junu Sudan. Jana ke o ju wuli. Ko wa ke o ju wuli ke tara le Nigeria already. So yene kana ko be there computerized inspection below fa ne junu Sudan. Ana kiran ke tara den la o kadil bai betem be kontem computer. Bi computer bi nyuo dunu etayra kana piat na chi piat ka bi nyuo de kan ngo ne mechanical malfunction ne taw etayra go pola to arabi ne go aye computer aye nyuo de tengon chi ya gri ai a chi man yin ki a human being ya ga man taw yin ki ra nu ne energetic, you are healthy anon ko wone to anyin bendom to anyele bi ndom at any given time, and that's why you have to see the doctor. The same thing applies to the vehicle. The same thing applies to aircraft. They ought to be inspected. So a computerized inspection is something that ought to be mandated by the government. So a chanen bi karabat bi katairat bi ke ga lo alaje. Then min bi ala tingop e ngochiriya kubulo yedi. Una de kiriya ge go kado no yin chi bi chat yin kiriya na chi ge yin chi taira kana chi achi will fly until be in your new to jalo ye ne kejiri agria go benki jalo lowi ke ten mi jaben dom je yin license. So if your vehicle and aircraft do not pass the mandatory computerized inspection in South Sudan, that vehicle or that aircraft will never be allowed to operate in South Sudan. So this is exactly what is required to be done by the Ministry of Transportation. They must make sure that each and every vehicle, each and every aircraft must have to be inspected. And this inspection must have to be computerized in order to certify and to issue license. So if your vehicle doesn't go through an inspection, it will not be given a license. You cannot be given a license to operate that vehicle. If your aircraft do not meet the mandatory required mechanized computerized inspection, that aircraft, that vehicle will not be certified, and you will not be issued a license to operate in South Sudan. And this is what is required right now. That is why I say it is a negligence of the authorities in charge of the public transportation to ignore the public safety. And this is what is killing our people. So you can clear. Clear what you be. So can I call action right now? It is not too late. You need to do something. Your government need to do something. And for your government to do something, that is why advocacy, creating awareness is necessary. Because your people are dying. All right? Garang deng sila unity et ko bar dokin bu jam da bu ban loy wasan. Wacha kale ju kai dai adiran ko bu lo join jam na ni yin be ben. Bi dek duon no maro. Wacha kale. Wacha kale ku na adiran ko bu ben ki linga ja tuoji. Na kira anji ben kalas ke ye na karang about yo within 1 hour. So we chakale jo kai dai NKK ba ben chira we kana tol kai kun ku ko de ke beloy about it. So don ka chane ga tairat ki ko jane ga bat ki ku ka chin ko won loy ki yin ne victim in Junub Sudan na ero yo ki a victim then ye yok below in ke twal to kenen ko yo ku la we de ko won ko below ye ken don ge ja tit ku la ye ne ka bin nyale ka be take it bin nyale be take it bin nyale take it when in fact no e wa ga to yin ran ko yin to ke yin ko de ko won below to prevent more deaths and to mitigate constant deaths that is caused by the negligence of the aircraft company, that is caused by the vehicular owners. Koi won ke ni marabat. Ke chi ko bi musulia bi no manu bi we koi kok bi ke sa. So kene e ki di do ne concern it. Wa we junubin kene ko jam. So kenen ke jam tin ku to na ke tingin a chi wuji be loy gno wuji ko jam tin ladem bi de won bi hukuma dana Junub Sudan blow about it. Actually not only hukuma but Junub Sudan, each and every single state authority must take into accountability what ought to be done about the aircraft, what ought to be done about the vehicle that are causing this constant accident on the street and in the air. All right? Kene ke maye maret. Eke pia the chanin bo we ko you cake there. So for those of you who are just tuning in, I'm talking about this trending pattern of aircraft and vehicular crash or accident in South Sudan. This has become a major concern because this is actually risking the life of our people. And so we are using this advocacy to reach out to the government authority in charge of the public transportation to ensure that they have to do something. They have to launch a corrective action about this constant aircraft crash and vehicular accident across South Sudan. I believe this vehicular accident in South Sudan is caused by the constant violation of the road law or rule of law being violated by the drivers as a result of overspeeding, overloading of the vehicle, maybe intoxication or abuse of substance. And what I mean by substance abuse is in the case of driver getting drunk. Drunken drivers could be a factor. Maybe it could be a bad road condition. So given the bad road condition, there are so many loopholes. I mean, the pothole in the road can actually cause an accident. So when the drivers are overspeeding, they are not observing the speed limit. So they like to overspeed. Coupled with a bad road condition, this can actually result in a tragic accident. And this is exactly what is happening in South Sudan. Overloading of the vehicle, when you overload, when you put more weight on the vehicle than the weight of the vehicle itself, that can actually cause that vehicle to overturn. And that is how accidents occur in South Sudan. When you allow the drunken drivers to go on the street, this is actually what is risking the public safety in South Sudan. When you allow the drivers to overspeed, that is what is actually contributing to the accident. If you allow the aircraft owners to ignore the mandatory inspection of the aircraft, this is what is actually leading to constant air crash in South Sudan. And this is what is killing our people. Another factor could be a malfunction, mechanical malfunction of the aircraft or a vehicle. There could be a mechanical problem in either the aircraft or the vehicle. This can actually lead to breakdown of that aircraft or that vehicle. So that's why our parliamentarian or lawmakers in South Sudan, as well as the authorities in charge of the public transportation, they have to make sure a mandatory inspection must be required. And failure to comply with the mandatory inspection will actually result in the prohibition of the vehicle or aircraft to be operated in South Sudan. And this is how you regulate the public transportation. This is how you mitigate, and this is how you reduce or lessen this continuous tragedy that is caused by the aircraft and vehicular accident in South Sudan. So this is what we need to appeal for, so that we can actually prevent more deaths. This is what required to be done. This is not very hard. And general inspection must meet the standard as per the law. So inspection must have to be computerized in order to certify and to issue license to aircraft to operate and to issue license to the vehicle to be operated on the streets of South Sudan. And how that is done, this requires each and every state to install an inspection station whereby each and every vehicle, each and every driver will be required by the law to go through mandatory inspection. And once that inspection is done, it will actually clear that particular vehicle of any mechanical malfunction or anything that will be identified by the computer. So anything that will actually limit your vehicle to be used on the road or on the public street will actually be monitored through computerized inspection. That is what needs to be done in South Sudan. The same thing will apply to the aircraft. So there must be an inspection station that must be put there in Juba airport. There must be a computerized inspection station that must make sure that each and every week, on weekly basis, all the aircraft must have to go through general inspection. So in order to carry out that mechanical inspection of the aircraft, it must have to be put through the computer. The computer system will actually connect all the sensors. The sensors, this wire system in the vehicle or in the aircraft have to be connected with the computer. And the computer will be able to indicate where there is a malfunction, mechanical malfunction in that aircraft or that vehicle. So the system will be able to indicate whether that aircraft or whether that vehicle is actually safe to be operated. This is how it is done. It is simple as that. And at the same time, the government authority will be able to generate revenue that will be used to actually construct a better road and to ensure the enforcement of the other public safety measure. So this is very simple. And I don't know why disqualified public authorities continue to ignore and neglect the public safety when in fact they have all the available tools in their capacity to do something about it. So if the government can actually bring all these instruments, the computerized system, bring it to your state, you can use it to actually generate revenue for your state, particularly in case of ruling administrative area. If they actually establish an inspection station, particularly in Parian, they can actually put that inspection center to enable the government to issue a mandatory inspection to all the vehicles that operate in Ruwing. And prior to issuing a license to each and every vehicle, they must have to undergo the public inspection. So when this vehicle comes for inspection, they will be paying you fee. There must be an inspection fee. This is another way of generating revenue for the government. And that revenue, once it is generated by that particular administrative area or that particular state, it will be used to improve the road condition. And improving the road condition will actually ensure public safety as well. So that means that money will be used to construct a better road. Not all these roads with a pothole. I think this is very important. So let us do something about it, ladies and gentlemen. This is not a joking matter, and something ought to be done because our people are dying. And we must speak up so that the government can do something about it. This is very important. So can get with a bench here way kuka yogian and coach who can get jam and thin. Yen and talk a jam. Kuka yogra and it keran they go to ben juacti. In KT natural and ben ka yok video but you which I can lay your die. Message that clear there no oh you know been oko buta ira ne ben pa ni Junu Sudan bike guy inspect ene arabine lo chanam ladem yeg inspection can go accident ga go coach ge ko ro de. So if anyone want to join me in the studio and have a comment, please feel free to join me. Otherwise, I think I should actually end the program. And thank you very much for watching. And we'll continue to advocate on behalf of our people on the ground in South Sudan. We cannot allow this to continue like that without a say. So that's why it's very important to speak up so that our voice can be heard. All right? All these vehicular accident, aircraft accident, aircraft crash ought to be stopped. You can see all these young pilots in South Sudan are dying prematurely. And this is very, very unfortunate. Should save life. Our innocent people are actually dying as well. We have seen these cargo aircraft in South Sudan are violating the law. They are using the cargo plane to transport or to logistic passengers. And this is illegal. You cannot use the cargo plane to actually logistic or transport passengers. Cargo plane should only contain, it should only contain the pilot and his co-pilot and the goods that are being transported in that particular aircraft. There should be no stopping of this aircraft with the passengers, because the cargo plane doesn't have a seat to be used by the passengers. So there is a difference between the passenger aircraft and the cargo aircraft. Some people do not actually see the difference, because when they say cargo plane or cargo aircraft, it means it is only an aircraft that is used to transport commodities or goods around, while passenger aircraft is only used to carry around the human being. So it is only meant for human passengers aircraft. Cargo aircraft is used to transport commodities or commercial goods. That's the difference. But in South Sudan, we have seen a serious violation constantly going on. We have seen the aircraft owners allowing the passengers to go on the cargo plane, which is unlawful. So that is why I keep saying that it is a negligence of the government authority not to look into this critically. At the same time, those aircraft, those cargo planes are actually they are also overloaded. So when you overload an aircraft, it can actually result in a crash. These are the factors. I don't know what the law enforcement have done, what they have discovered during the investigation. Because whenever you carry out criminal investigation pertaining to all these accidents, you will be able to discover something. What went wrong? Was it a mechanical problem? Was it overloading of the aircraft? Even the same thing applies to the vehicle too. When a vehicle causes an accident, it is up to the law enforcement or the police, whoever is investigating that particular accident or air crash. You have to know exactly, identify the problem. What was the cause of that aircraft crash? What was the cause of that vehicular crash? At the end of the day, you are going to make a recommendation to the prosecutor in charge. And if this is actually becoming a trending pattern, something that is happening over time, every now and then, or every time, then the law enforcement will actually sit down and they will devise a way forward, a strategy how to tackle that problem. So you have to start the problem over time. That's why we are getting sick now. We are sick and tired of this constant aircraft crash, vehicular accident, and nothing is done about it. We have not seen the government authorities on the ground strictly enforcing the rule of law, so that these drivers on the street or on the road must stop over speeding, must stop overloading the vehicle, or must stop operating malfunctioning vehicle on the road of South Sudan. And this is how you can ensure the public safety. This is not happening. The same thing applies to aircraft. There is no regulatory inspection. There is no mandated inspection of the vehicle. There's no mandated aircraft inspection in South Sudan airport, particularly in Juba. We don't know whether they have this mandatory required inspection. We are not talking about the aircraft coming from another country, because those aircraft, they have their own legal jurisdiction where they operate. So maybe in those respective countries where they come from, they are required by the law to undergo public inspection to ensure that their passengers are safe, and to ensure that their commodities, their commercial goods are also in good insurance. So that's why you see even the aircraft must also be required to be insured. If they do not actually prove their insurance license, then they cannot be allowed to operate. The same thing applies to the vehicle too. If all these vehicles operating in South Sudan do not meet the standard insurance requirement, then they cannot be allowed to operate on the street of South Sudan. This is how you ensure the rule of law. And the reason why this is done is to ensure and to mitigate the accident that goes on every now and then. Anyway, thank you very much. I think I have exhausted my presentation pertaining to this program. So it is now incumbent upon the authorities concerned to do something about it. And it is also incumbent upon yourself as a citizen of South Sudan, whether you will continue to feel comfortable using those aircraft, using those vehicles that are malfunction, that violate the speed limit, that violate the standard weight of a vehicle. A driver that get drunk and still drive. This is unacceptable. So it is up to you as an individual or as a group, to do something about it, because you are the one using the aircraft and you are the one using the vehicle. All right? I care about your life. So this is not really look concern. This is about you. This is about my other people out there that do not have an idea about what is actually killing people. So we are using the advocacy to inform you and to appeal to the government authority so they can do something. And if the government authority do not want to do any corrective action, then you as a citizen who become a constant victim of this aircraft and the vehicle being used on the street and in the airspace of South Sudan, it is up to you to come out and speak up. You can even launch a public protest. And one way to protest is actually to boycott the commercial use of those aircraft, boycott the use of those vehicles. You know, you can do it. So anyway, thank you very much. I think I should end the live video. Should end there, and let's look forward to see if there is going to be any change. If there is going to be any change in South Sudan, we will see. Okay. This is very important for your life. I don't know what's wrong with the network. The network is actually interfering with my stuff. So, yeah, I can see there's a network problem here. Our people live matter. We need to serve lives. We need to serve lives, ladies and gentlemen. If not, just sit back and watch.
Paired. Maximum volume.
Ngan bu yin balak, ngan bu yin balak.
the talking about when I pay a dungeon. And I can be a time jogger of him, the fusion of the tour to buy. The Gemmo, young Academia, Yakadun, go down, go away from Yoga, by the Gemway, Yagadai, buying a buy, Chum ruin, a pretty pay, and a blow your window, and a back the Gemmo, young Academia, Yakadun, go down, go away from Yoga, by the Gemway, Yagadai, buying a buy, Chum ruin, a pretty pay, and a blow your window, and a back Yakida, buying a buy, and a boat or the deer, pin and on ruin, a beer all day, and a bin your pin, and a bear buying ya. Yakida, buying a buy, and a boat or the deer, pin and on ruin, a beer all day, and a bin your pin, and a bear buying ya. Muru in the Panjam, where a photo bag, Jirani, would take over me, you know, cake. Muru in the Panjam, where a photo bag, Jirani, would take Murun.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I think the program has come to an end, and I'm looking forward to see the improvement of the public safety in South Sudan. Let us look forward to see if our government authority will do something about it in order to save life. Something ought to be done. This is not only confined to a particular government authority, particularly the lawmakers. Lawmakers, parliamentarians, have the full responsibility to make sure they do something that risks the life of the people of South Sudan. And one thing to do that is to legislate. So it is always incumbent upon the parliamentarian or the lawmakers of any country to ensure that they do something when a problem arises. So in this case of constant trending pattern of aircraft crash, vehicular accident in South Sudan, something is not being done. That is why the public must actually take upon themselves the responsibility to demand that their lawmakers that represent them in the national legislature must have to do something. And that is to legislate mandatory measures, mandatory standard requirement that must be imposed strictly with the rule of law. So when we call upon the public authorities, it will actually depend who actually is ignoring or neglecting the responsibility or obligation that is actually required by the law. Who is failing us here? Is it the authorities in charge of the transportation, or is it the lawmakers that do not actually want to legislate anything to do with the public safety, particularly in the part of the transportation sector? There is a much ignorance there. Any rule governing the public transportation and safety, everything is actually being legislated or being regulated by the lawmakers. That is why it is important for your representative in the government to identify where the problems are within their own constituencies prior to carrying out any public legislation. So in this case, there is a need for regulation of the vehicle. And that is why it must have to be mandated. It has to be required by the law that each and every vehicle, each and every aircraft must undergo public inspection. And this inspection have to be computerized. It has to be done by the computer, not human inspection. Because if you allow the inspection to be done by the human, there is going to be a human error. Because some of the technician or mechanic involved may actually make some errors. They may make some mistake. They may not be able to identify the problem. And matter of fact, the number one factor that is contributing to the aircraft crash in South Sudan is actually caused by the use of the outdated aircraft. Most of these aircraft have been used during the World War I, World War II, and so South Sudan has actually become a dumping ground whereby they come and sell these outdated aircraft. They are being dumped in South Sudan. But in order to make sure these aircraft are safe to be used in South Sudan, what is required by the law is to make sure there must be a computerized inspection in order to determine whether those old aircraft that are being sold to South Sudan business people are operable, or whether they can be serviceable, whether they can be allowed to operate, whether they are operable in South Sudan. And one way to identify that is to make sure they have to undergo a computerized testing, a computerized certification prior to issuance of the license for their operation. Failure to comply with this standard legal requirement of an inspection, I think no aircraft should be allowed to operate. An aircraft could be old, they could be outdated, but maybe when they sold those aircraft to the South Sudanese business people, they might have fit them with a new part. So if they install them with a new part, then they can be serviceable. That means they can be operable. They can be operated in South Sudan without any hindrance. But if they do not fit them with a new part that can make those aircraft to be serviceable in South Sudan, then I think the legal jurisdiction of South Sudan have the right to deny the operation of those aircraft. So which is not clear to us whether these aircraft are allowed to go through computerized inspection in South Sudan or not. I'm not well informed about this. I wish if I were to be on the ground, I will actually launch an independent investigation with the authorities in charge of the aircraft, particularly those who walk around the Juba International Airport. We don't know whether they have an inspection station whereby each and every aircraft that operate in South Sudan have to undergo weekly or daily inspection before they take into the air. You know, before any aircraft take into the air, it must undergo mechanical maintenance. They have to be maintained mechanically. That is what ought to be done in order to mitigate this trending aircraft crash in South Sudan. Some people raise a concern of incompetent pilot because they say most of the pilots are manually trained, and that means they do not go through theoretical, training or studies. You need to go to through a rigorous, theoretical training before you do the mechanical training, so that you will be able to understand the complexity of the system of the aircraft. And whenever any malfunction arises while you are operating that aircraft, you should be able to know. So you have to be knowledgeable, when you operate the aircraft. That is why you have to undergo an intensive training, internship. You have to learn this professionally, not just a manual or vocational training. It's not enough. So it is very unfortunate if they are actually training, the pilot manually without allowing them to go through, this intensive study. This must have to be done professionally in order to operate the passenger aircraft and to operate cargo plane or cargo aircraft. So I understand all these aircraft are they are outdated. These are the aircraft of the World War II, World War I. These aircraft are out of service in the country where they come from, where they are being purchased. But if they are actually brought to South Sudan, they have to undergo inspection. So they must meet the standard safety. They must meet the legal inspection in South Sudan. So I think it is simple as that. Here is what one of these commentator put it out there. Some pilots are trained manually without attending classes, which lead to incompetence and inexperience, which I believe is happening in South Sudan. And this is very risky. That's why people who do not qualify are not allowed to take over those jobs. This is very risky to public safety. Another concern, really, the lack of road cause more dead people in South Sudan. You're right. I'm just reading the comment, though. Government of Republic of South Sudan could be watchful for the life of citizens to condemn traveling of all such a movable tool. Yep. You're right, my brother. The major problem is mostly of the plane are oldest model or overused plane. Yes, you're right. That is exactly what I'm talking about. South Sudan is actually using outdated aircraft. Something can be of old fashion, but I understand, according to what I have experienced here in the Western world, you can still use a vehicle of 1970s, but it can still be operable at this time. And the reason why they still use them is because they fit them with a new tool. I mean, they fit them with a new part. They install new part in those vehicles or those aircraft. So if you buy these old aircraft, they might fit them with a new part. You put a new engine. Maybe you put a new, transmission that can actually look like a brand new. It can be old physically, but if all these engines are new, everything can function normally. So that's why I keep telling you they have to undergo inspection, because inspection will determine whether this old aircraft is still operable, it is still serviceable. And if not, it will not be permitted to operate. The computer will tell. That's why I said I don't recommend the use of the human inspection. That means they have to do it mechanically. We cannot allow the competent mechanic to actually check the system. but we can use the computer to detect it. So computerized detection can actually identify where there is a malfunction in that particular aircraft or in that particular vehicle prior to permit them to be used. Because computers don't lie. Because there are sensors that are connected, and actually the computer can actually detect where the system can actually malfunction. You know? So that is exactly what it is. That's what it is. Thank you very much, Santino Deng Makur. I completely understand and I agree with you. But we don't have to give up anyway. I understand even some people are saying that there is no government. It is incumbent upon you as a citizen of South Sudan to continue to talk to your government. There will be some people who will listen, and some people who will not listen. And for those who won't listen, you have to do something as well. So I always keep telling you that I understand the frustration, the disappointment, the dissatisfaction of the people of South Sudan is overwhelming. And that is a fact. You know, we are all frustrated, but we don't have to give up. We don't have to give in. We have to continue to insist persistently, you know, advocate, talk to our government authorities until they do something. We cannot just fold our arm and say, you know what, okay, now I give up or I give in. I don't want to do this. And it's still people gonna die under your watch. So what will you do? You know? So let us not feel discouraged. Let us do something about it. All right? Anyway, thank you and have a good night. Have a good morning. Have a good afternoon, wherever you may be, depending on your time zone. Now we have a different time zone, and that is why you see me saying good afternoon. For me here, it is already midnight. It is already early morning anyway. It is early morning. And it is early morning. So yen apiat ka pol ku wacha ka lej ka ka dai kan bililu kan bijo la touch wacha ka lej ku yen ke lo kan jinu Sudan. Okay. All right. Okay, bye everyone. See you again. The next topic tomorrow probably will be about the military coup in Sudan. The military coup in northern Sudan should also be a concern to South Sudanese, because stability of the northern Sudan should also concern us as Junubin. Because when there is a political instability in northern Sudan, it will actually instabilize South Sudan as well, one way or the other, because we interdepend on each other. We depend on each other economically, financially. You know that. As you all know, this oil revenue that come or that flow to South Sudan come from the port of Sudan. So if this political turmoil in northern Sudan continue, it will actually affect South Sudanese economically and financially. So that's why we have to be concerned about the political stability in northern Sudan. So that is going to be the next topic, and I'm inviting you in the band so you can stay tuned to my channel, and we will be able to see how that discussion is going to go down in the near future. So thank you very much, and have a good night, have a good morning, have a good afternoon. Thank you, everyone.